My name is Maya Rodriguez. I'm 29, a marketing analyst fighting to rebuild my life after a devastating divorce. I thought I'd experienced betrayal before, but nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for what my father did to me. Last Christmas, while trying to hold it together at a family gathering, I borrowed my brother's phone to check an urgent email. That's when I saw it. A post on my dad's social media account, staring me in the face like a punch to the gut. If you could erase one person from the family, should it be Maya? She's a failure in her career and her marriage. My heart stopped. The comments were even worse. My mom, my sister, even family friends, they all joined in, tearing me apart piece by piece. She's always been a disappointment, one said. We'd be better off without her, another added. I stood there frozen in that hallway, my hands shaking uncontrollably. How could my own father do this? My own family voting to erase me like I was nothing, like I didn't matter. I'd spent 3 years rebuilding my life after my divorce, landing freelance contracts with major brands, proving to myself I could stand on my own 2 feet. Only to have them humiliate me in front of thousands of people online. But here's the thing, it wasn't just a cruel post. It actually cost me a client. A major deal I'd worked on for months, gone in an instant. I could have crumbled right there. But something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to let them get away with this. This is my story, a true story of how I fought back and taught them a lesson they'll never forget. Drop a comment and tell me, what would you do if your family betrayed you like this? Hit subscribe if you believe no one should tear you down, especially not your own blood. After my divorce, I poured everything into rebuilding. I thought I'd finally found my footing here in Austin, Texas. The ink on those divorce papers was barely dry when I threw myself into my work as a marketing analyst. I spent countless late nights building campaigns, analyzing data for clients, chasing freelance contracts to prove I could make it on my own. Landing a major project with a local tech startup felt like a victory, $12,000 in my pocket and a real chance to rebuild my life from scratch. I wasn't just surviving. I was clawing my way up, determined to show the world I wouldn't be defined by a failed marriage. But no matter how hard I worked, my family saw me as the black sheep. My dad, Robert Rodriguez, 61, a retired real estate broker with a need for control, never let me forget it. Why can't you be more like your sister, he'd say over Sunday dinners, his voice cutting like a knife. My sister Carmen Rodriguez, 33, was the golden child, a freelance photographer whose work in local magazines made Dad beam with pride. Carmen had this way of flaunting her success, casually dropping stories about her latest gallery showing or high-profile client while I sat there forcing a smile. Maya, maybe if you tried harder, you'd actually get somewhere, she once said, her tone dripping with fake sympathy. I'd bite my tongue, knowing that arguing was pointless. My mom, Rosa Rodriguez, 60, wasn't any better. She'd retired from nursing and spent her days praising Carmen. When I landed that big contract, I called Mom hoping for just a shred of praise. That's nice, dear, she said, distracted, before launching into how Carmen's latest photo shoot was absolutely inspiring. I felt invisible. Even my brother, Diego Rodriguez, 26, a graphic designer who usually stayed out of family drama, would just shrug when I vented. That's just how they are, he'd say, scrolling through his phone. The worst part. Dad's obsession with appearances. He'd built a reputation in Austin as a respected businessman, always hosting community events, posting about family values on social media. His profile, with 3,000 followers, old clients, neighbors, business contacts, was his pride and joy. He'd share photos of Carmen's gallery openings or Mom's volunteer work, but never once mentioned my achievements. I'd see his posts and feel this ache in my chest, wondering why I wasn't worth bragging about. Once, I commented on his page sharing a link to a campaign I'd built for a client. His reply: "Good effort, Maya. Good effort. Like I was a kid with a participation trophy. Looking back, I should have seen the signs building. But I kept hoping for change, for one moment where they'd see me for who I really was. The Christmas party at my parents' house in their upscale Austin neighborhood started out bright enough. I stepped inside, the air thick with the scent of pine and cinnamon, expecting the usual forced smiles and awkward small talk. I'd braced myself for family tension, but nothing could have prepared me for how vicious it would get. Dad was holding court in the living room, his voice booming as he recounted his glory days in real estate. Carmen sat nearby, sipping wine, her smug grin a silent taunt. Mom bustled around playing perfect hostess, her laughter ringing out whenever Carmen spoke. I stood on the sidelines clutching a glass of eggnog, feeling like a stranger at my own family celebration. The jab started almost immediately. As we sat down for dinner, Dad turned to me, his eyes cold. "So Maya, still working on those little marketing projects?" he asked, his tone dripping with condescension. I forced a nod, mentioning a recent campaign I'd just landed. "It's actually a really big deal for me," I said, hoping for even a flicker of approval. Carmen snorted. "Big deal? Landing clients that actually matter, that's a big deal." The table erupted in chuckles. Mom patted Carmen's hand, beaming. "Your sister's latest exhibition was so moving," Mom said, not even glancing my way. I gripped my fork, my face burning, but I swallowed the urge to snap back. Dad leaned back, smirking. "Maya, maybe if you'd picked a real career like Carmen, you wouldn't be starting over after that divorce." My stomach twisted. The word divorce hung in the air like a neon sign, and I felt every eye on me, cousins, aunts, family friends, all pretending not to hear while definitely listening. Carmen piled on, her voice sugary sweet. "I mean, some people just aren't cut out for marriage, or success." I wanted to scream. To tell them I'd just secured a $12,000 contract. But the words stuck in my throat. I needed air. I excused myself and slipped into the hallway, my chest tight with barely contained emotion. My brother Diego was sprawled on the couch, scrolling through his phone as usual. "Can I borrow that to check an email?" I asked, desperate for a distraction. He shrugged, handing it over without looking up. I opened the email app, but a notification caught my eye, a social media alert from Dad's profile. Curious, I clicked. My blood ran cold. There it was. A post from Robert Rodriguez. My own father. Staring me in the face. If you could erase one person from the family, should it be Maya? She's a failure in her career and her marriage. My hands trembled as I scrolled through the comments, each one hitting like a physical blow. Mom had written, "She's always been a disappointment." Carmen added, "Family's better off without her dragging us down." Even family friends chimed in, "Yeah, she's kind of a mess. Maya never got it together. She's the weak link." I stood frozen, the glow of the phone burning my eyes. My own family, publicly shredding me. Dad's profile with thousands of followers, his old colleagues, neighbors, people I'd known my whole life, was the stage for their cruelty. I clicked again, seeing more comments pile up. Each one a dagger to my heart. I handed Diego his phone back, my voice barely a whisper. "Thanks." I walked away, my legs unsteady, but I didn't confront them. Not yet. I couldn't. But as I stood there alone in that hallway, something fundamental shifted inside me. This wasn't just a family squabble anymore. This was war. And I was going to make them answer for every single word. I sat in my car in the quiet parking lot, my phone glowing with evidence I couldn't unsee. The sounds of the party, laughter, music, fake joy, faded into the background as I opened that social media app with shaking fingers. I started taking screenshots. Every single one. The post. Every comment. I saved them all to a folder I named Evidence. My chest tightened with each click, but I kept going because I knew these words weren't just cruel, they were destroying my livelihood. A client had dropped me just last week. A $6,000 freelance contract, gone with a vague email about concerns over your professional reliability. At the time, I didn't understand. Now it all made sense. That post, shared with thousands of followers, neighbors, Dad's old business contacts, people I'd grown up around, wasn't just a family fight. It was sabotage. Pure and simple. I needed someone to ground me. Someone rational. I dialed my best friend, Jessica Chen, 30, an HR manager who'd always been my voice of reason. It was late, but she answered immediately. "Maya, what's wrong?" she asked, picking up on the edge in my voice. I poured out everything, the party, what I'd found on Diego's phone, the public humiliation. "They're trashing me online, Jess. It's public, and it's already hurt my work. I lost a client because of it." My voice wavered, but I kept it steady. Jessica didn't hesitate. "That's defamation, plain and simple. You can sue. That kind of public post damaging your reputation. It's absolutely actionable. You need a lawyer who knows defamation and privacy law." Her words hit me like a lifeline thrown to someone drowning. Sue my own family. It felt like jumping off a cliff. But the more I thought about it, the more sense it made. This wasn't just personal betrayal, it was an attack on my career, broadcast to a network of people who knew me professionally. "Maya, I know a lawyer in Austin," Jessica continued. "Sarah Mitchell. She's sharp, specializes in defamation cases. I'll send you her number right now." I exhaled, grateful for her clarity. "Jess, I don't even know where to start." "You start by fighting back," she said firmly. "You've worked too hard to let this slide. You deserve better than this." After we hung up, Jessica's text came through with Sarah Mitchell's contact details. I saved it immediately, my mind racing but focused. I pulled out my laptop right there in the parking lot, the dim streetlight barely illuminating the screen. I started organizing everything methodically. I transferred all the screenshots into a document, adding detailed notes. The post's timestamp. Number of views, already over 1,200. Every single name tied to each comment. The engagement metrics showing it had been shared 47 times. Then I dug through my emails, finding the one from the client who'd bailed. "Recent concerns about your professionalism," it read, sent just hours after the post went live. That was my smoking gun. The direct link between their words and my financial loss. I built a timeline starting from when I'd borrowed Diego's phone. Every detail mattered. Every piece of evidence had to be airtight. It was nearly 2 a.m. when I closed my laptop. My eyes burned, but a quiet strength had settled deep inside me. This wasn't about getting revenge. This was about holding them accountable. Dad thought he could air his resentment to the world without consequence. Carmen's smugness. Mom's complicity. Even Diego's small role by liking the post, they all added up to something I could no longer ignore. I wasn't the failure they wanted everyone to believe. I'd rebuilt my life brick by brick, fought for every contract, every step forward. As I started the car, the engine's hum matched the resolve building inside me. They'd crossed a line, and I was done letting them walk all over me. Back in my Austin apartment, I sat at my kitchen table, the weight of my decision pressing down on my shoulders. I'd spent hours organizing evidence, but before escalating further, I wanted to give my family one chance, one single chance, to fix their mess. I opened our family group chat and typed a message, my fingers steady despite the anger simmering inside. I saw the post. It's public. It's damaging. And it's wrong. Delete it immediately and post a public apology, or I'll take this further. I hit send, staring at the screen, waiting for a response that might salvage something, anything, from this disaster. Robert replied first, within minutes. It was just a joke, Maya. Don't make such a big deal out of it. A joke? My career was taking hits and he called it a joke. Carmen chimed in next, you're being way too sensitive. It's just social media. Get over it. Mom didn't respond at all. Her silence was louder than any comment could have been. Diego sent a private text, I didn't mean to hurt you. I just liked the post without thinking. I'm sorry. It was something. But it wasn't enough. I read their messages again, my jaw clenching. They weren't sorry. They were doubling down, defending their cruelty. That was it. I was done begging for basic human respect from people who were supposed to love me. I called Sarah Mitchell the next morning. Her office was downtown Austin, small, professional, no nonsense. She agreed to meet me that same afternoon. At 2 p.m., I walked in with my laptop and a folder of printed screenshots. Sarah, a sharp woman in her mid-40s with piercing eyes, listened intently as I laid out the situation. My dad posted something online that destroyed my reputation, I said, sliding the screenshots across her desk. It cost me a freelance contract worth $6,000, and I'm certain it's not done causing damage. Sarah skimmed the evidence, her expression darkening. This is textbook defamation. Public, false statements causing measurable harm to your reputation. In Texas, we can absolutely build a strong case if you've got proof of damages. I had that proof. I pulled up the email from the client who dropped me, sent just hours after Robert's post went viral, citing concerns about your professionalism as the reason. I showed Sarah another email from a potential client who'd gone completely silent after initially expressing interest. I was supposed to pitch them next week, but they stopped responding after the post gained traction. Sarah nodded, taking notes. We'll need more documentation, but this is a very strong start. Social media posts like this, especially with his following, can cause real, quantifiable damage. Let's file a defamation lawsuit against your father. The word lawsuit felt heavy, but I didn't flinch. What do we need? Sarah outlined the process: formal complaint, comprehensive evidence of harm, and a demand letter to Robert before officially filing. Back home, I dove deeper into gathering proof. I combed through my entire inbox, finding a third email from a business colleague who'd asked, "Is everything okay? Saw some concerning stuff online about you." That was another hit to my professional network. I tracked down more screenshots of the post's engagement, over 2,000 views now, dozens of shares spreading like wildfire. I contacted another client, a small business owner I'd worked with previously, who confirmed she'd seen the post through a mutual connection. It didn't look good, she admitted, her tone apologetic. I had questions about working with you again. Every piece of evidence fueled my resolve. I wasn't just fighting for me, I was fighting for the life I'd built from nothing. Robert thought he could dismiss me as a failure, but I'd spent years proving him wrong. Landing contracts. Rebuilding after divorce. Creating a life I was proud of. Carmen's arrogance. Mom's silence. Even Diego's half-hearted apology, none of it was going to stop me. I worked late into the night, organizing my case, emailing Sarah updates. She sent back a draft of the demand letter, formal and direct, ordering Robert to remove the post and issue a public apology or face immediate legal action. I read it, my pulse steady and strong. This was my line in the sand. By Monday morning, the demand letter was sent through Sarah's office. I didn't expect Robert to comply, he'd already called it a joke, dismissed my pain entirely. But I'd given them a chance, and they'd thrown it back in my face. As I sealed the envelope with my final evidence packet for Sarah, I felt a fundamental shift inside me. This wasn't about family anymore. This was about accountability. About standing up for myself when no one else would. They'd tried to erase me. But I was done being invisible. I was ready to face them in court and make them answer for every single word they'd written. 6 weeks after that devastating Christmas party, I stood in a Texas courtroom, facing my family for what I knew would be the last time as their daughter. The Austin courthouse was imposing, all marble floors and wooden benches that creaked under the weight of years of broken families and shattered relationships. I adjusted my navy blazer, my hand surprisingly steady as I sat beside Sarah Mitchell, my lawyer. Across the room, Robert sat rigid, his jaw set in that stubborn way I'd seen my whole life, refusing to meet my eyes. Mom fidgeted beside him, her face tight with obvious discomfort and something that might have been shame, but probably wasn't. Carmen sat in the back row, arms crossed, glaring at me with pure hatred. Diego slouched in his seat, looking anywhere but at me, guilt written all over his face. The judge, a stern woman with sharp, no-nonsense eyes, called the case. My heart pounded, but I was ready. I'd been preparing for this moment for weeks. Sarah stood, presenting our evidence with surgical precision. She displayed the screenshots, the Post's damning words projected on a large screen for everyone in that courtroom to see. This public statement by Robert Rodriguez caused measurable, quantifiable harm to Maya Rodriguez's professional reputation, Sarah said, her voice clear and unwavering. This wasn't a private family dispute. This was a deliberate, public attack seen by thousands of people. She showed the email from my client who'd canceled the $6,000 contract, sent just hours after the post went viral. This wasn't just hurt feelings, Sarah continued, her tone sharp. This was professional sabotage that cost Ms. Rodriguez her livelihood and damaged relationships she'd spent years building. I glanced at Robert, expecting some sign of guilt, some flicker of regret. But he just stared straight ahead, unyielding and defiant. When it was his turn, Robert stood, his voice calm but dripping with justification. It was a harmless post meant to spark family discussion. I didn't think it would hurt anyone. The judge raised an eyebrow, clearly unimpressed. Sarah countered immediately, presenting the engagement metrics, over 3,200 views, 89 shares spreading the post far beyond Austin's city limits. You didn't think publicly calling your daughter a failure would harm her? Sarah pressed. Despite having 3,000 followers including business contacts and community members. Robert faltered, muttering something about people being too sensitive these days, but the judge's expression hardened visibly. The hearing concluded without an immediate ruling. The judge needed time to review all the evidence thoroughly. But I could read her face. She'd seen through Robert's excuses. I left that courtroom with heavy legs but intact resolve. Outside, my phone exploded with messages. Carmen's text came first, venomous and predictable. You're so selfish, Maya. Dragging us through this for your ego. You've destroyed this family. Mom's call followed, her voice low and accusing. How could you do this to your father? After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us. You're ungrateful. I listened, my throat tight, but I didn't respond. Their words felt like echoes of that post, doubling down on their disdain, confirming I'd made the right choice. I hung up without saying a word, staring at the courthouse steps, wondering if I'd ever truly been part of their family at all, or just a convenient target for their dysfunction. Diego caught up with me in the parking lot, his face pale and drawn. Maya, I really messed up, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Liking that post without thinking. I didn't realize it would blow up like this. I'm genuinely sorry. His eyes met mine, and I saw real regret there, the first genuine emotion I'd seen from any of them. I'll back you up, whatever you need, he continued. I'll testify if it helps. This was wrong, and I should have said something from the start. I nodded, a lump forming in my throat. Thanks, Diego, I said softly. It wasn't complete forgiveness, not yet. But it was a crack in the wall between us. A small opening where trust might eventually grow again. He shuffled away, leaving me alone with my thoughts in that parking lot. Back at my apartment that evening, I replayed the day in my mind. Robert's stubborn defense. Carmen's venom. Mom's accusations, they hadn't changed at all. They still saw me as the problem, the troublemaker who dared to fight back instead of silently accepting their abuse. But Diego's apology lingered, a small spark of hope in the wreckage of what used to be my family. I opened my laptop, reviewing the evidence again, adding notes from the hearing. Sarah had warned me the case could drag on for months, but I wasn't backing down. Not now. Not ever. That post had cost me a valuable contract, damaged client relationships, and years of struggling to prove my worth in an industry that's already difficult enough. I wasn't just fighting for money, though the financial damage was real and significant. I was fighting for my name. My reputation. My life. As I sat there in the quiet of my apartment, my phone buzzed again. Another text from Carmen, "You'll regret this, Maya. You're going to be all alone." I didn't reply. Their words couldn't hurt me anymore. Not like they used to. I'd stood in that courtroom, faced their judgment head-on, and walked out stronger than when I'd entered. Whatever came next, whatever the judge decided, I'd face it on my terms, not theirs. This wasn't about winning or losing a lawsuit. It was about standing up for myself, drawing boundaries, demanding basic human respect. Something they'd never understand because they'd never had to fight for it. I'd spent 29 years seeking their approval, trying to be good enough, trying to earn their love. I was done with that. From now on, I was living for me. After the trial, my family thought they could force my silence through intimidation and guilt. They were wrong. I couldn't let their false narrative win. So I logged into a local Austin community forum, a digital hub where neighbors, business owners, and residents traded stories and opinions. My fingers hovered over the keyboard for just a moment. Then I began typing. I laid out my story, the public attack, the lawsuit, and a truth I'd kept buried for years out of misplaced family loyalty. Robert had always presented himself as a pillar of integrity, a retired real estate broker turned successful small business owner. But I revealed what he'd hidden from his carefully curated social media followers. 3 years ago, he'd convinced me to invest $15,000 in his property management company, promising me a share of the profits. "It's a family venture," he'd said, his voice warm with false assurance. "We take care of our own." I'd trusted him completely, scraping together every cent from my freelance earnings and savings. But the profits never came. Month after month, Robert dodged my questions with elaborate excuses. Slow market. Bad timing. Unexpected maintenance costs. I'd let it slide, hoping for honesty, believing family wouldn't lie to family. But now I saw it for what it truly was, just another betrayal in a long line of them. I posted the details, including emails where he'd promised repayment that never materialized. I hit publish, my pulse steady but my stomach tight with anticipation. The forum exploded within hours. Comments flooded in, locals shocked at Robert's deception and hypocrisy. "I've shopped at his business for years. Never knew he'd do this to his own daughter. Maya's work is solid. Turner's the one who looks shady now." The backlash grew with posts calling out my family's coordinated cruelty. Someone tagged Carmen, whose polished online persona as a photographer crumbled under public scrutiny. "Your sister's no saint either," a commenter noted, referencing her role in the smear campaign. Mom's silence online didn't spare her from criticism. Users called her complicit, an enabler of abuse. Diego stayed quiet, his earlier apology still fresh and apparently genuine. By morning, my post had thousands of views. Local business owners, some I'd worked with, shared it, amplifying the outrage and holding my family accountable. A reporter from an Austin news outlet messaged me asking for an interview. I declined politely. I didn't need more attention, just accountability. But the pressure was squarely on my family now. Robert's business faced an immediate boycott from regular customers who'd read my post. A neighbor emailed me saying she'd stopped using his services after learning the truth about how he treated his own daughter. The community's response wasn't just validation, it was a reckoning years in the making. Carmen sent a text, her words sharp and desperate, "You're ruining Dad's business just to play victim. Are you happy now?" I didn't respond. Mom left a voicemail, her tone icy, "This is low, Maya. Airing family business like this. You've gone too far." I deleted it without listening to the whole thing. Diego called, his voice hesitant but supportive. "I saw your post. I understand why you did it. I'm not mad. Someone needed to tell the truth." His support, small as it was, felt like a lifeline in the storm I'd deliberately unleashed. 6 months later, I stood in my new apartment, a bright, spacious place I'd made entirely my own. The storm had finally settled, leaving behind a transformed world. Robert's post had vanished from the internet, deleted under pressure from the lawsuit's devastating fallout. The local business bureau issued a formal complaint about his conduct, and his reputation in Austin's tight-knit community was permanently damaged. Mom and Carmen faced their own reckoning. The community continued discussing their roles, and their social standing evaporated. Carmen's photography business suffered as clients quietly distanced themselves. Diego had stayed true to his word, reaching out regularly, helping rebuild the bridge between us slowly and carefully. I'd spent those months rebuilding piece by piece. Jessica had been my rock, meeting me for coffee weekly, connecting me with new clients. Those connections landed me steady contracts, and my portfolio grew stronger than ever. I'd learned a hard truth: betrayal, even from family, doesn't deserve forgiveness without genuine accountability and changed behavior. Robert never apologized, his pride too entrenched. Mom's voicemails stopped entirely. Carmen's occasional texts went unanswered. I'd cut them out, not with anger, but with clarity and self-preservation. Diego was the exception, his regret genuine, his actions proving he wanted to truly rebuild trust. I sat at my desk one evening, reflecting on this incredible journey. The pain of that Christmas party. The sting of that post. The tension of the courtroom. They'd all forged me into someone new, someone stronger. I wasn't the failure Robert had painted me as, nor the victim Carmen accused me of playing. I was Maya Rodriguez, a woman who'd fought for her name, her reputation, and her dignity. And won. The lawsuit was eventually settled. Robert paid damages and issued a private apology, though never a public one. His pride wouldn't allow it. But the money wasn't the point. The point was standing up. Drawing boundaries. Refusing to be silenced. I was finally living life on my own terms, surrounded by people who genuinely lifted me up, people like Jessica and Diego who proved that family isn't always about blood. Sometimes it's about who shows up when everything falls apart. 5 critical lessons I learned. 1. Family doesn't mean unconditional tolerance. Just because someone is family doesn't give them permission to abuse, humiliate, or betray you. Blood relation doesn't justify toxic behavior. You have every right to set boundaries and walk away from people who consistently tear you down, even if they're your parents or siblings. 2. Document everything in this digital age. Screenshots are powerful evidence. When someone attacks you publicly, especially online, document it immediately. Save posts, comments, emails, messages. Evidence is your strongest weapon when words turn into actions that damage your life and career. 3. Your reputation is a tangible asset. Your professional reputation directly impacts your ability to earn a living. When someone publicly damages it, that's not just hurt feelings, it's financial harm. Defamation laws exist for this exact reason. Don't be afraid to use legal channels to protect yourself. 4. True support reveals itself in crisis. When everything falls apart, you discover who really has your back. Jessica showed up without hesitation. Diego found the courage to apologize and change. Meanwhile, those who claimed to love me most showed their true colors. Pay attention to who stands with you when you need them most. 5. Rebuilding is possible, and worth it. Even when your whole world crumbles, you can rebuild something better. I lost a family but gained self-respect, genuine relationships, and a life lived authentically. Sometimes you have to lose what's broken to build something whole. I want to hear from you. This isn't just my story, it's a conversation about standing up when the people closest to us become our biggest obstacles.